Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, a couple in their late 20s faced anxiety over the bug man's visit to their apartment. Opie, with a history of OCD, struggled with the intrusion. However, he unexpectedly slept through the bug man's visit, later discovering a note implying his wife's cheating. Confronted, she admitted to spending hours with the bug man. Enraged, he immediately expelled her, prompting her relatives to criticize her actions. He chose to focus on his emotional recovery, finding solace in a new puppy before contemplating a new relationship. Now let's get into the story. My wife, 27, and I, 29, were living in a small apartment complex where 2 times a year, a bug man would come spray the apartment. It only took a few seconds, and then they were gone. But we were still anxious about it. We'd make sure the apartment was clean, and one of the cats we owned was at her uncle's house. I don't like having people in my space, and my wife often said I had OCD. If things didn't go exactly according to plan, I would freak out. My wife was pretty understanding about that at least, so she tried to stick to her word and give me a sense of stability while I did the same for her. On the morning the bug people were scheduled to come, I woke up in a panic at 5 a.m. I couldn't go back to sleep, knowing a stranger would be arriving at my house soon, and I had to let him in. My wife woke up at 7 and started our usual chores and breakfast. After I ate with her, I worked on the computer for a few hours, and it was already 12 p.m. past the bug man's arrival window. Thinking he wouldn't be there that day, I finally started to relax. I felt my eyelids droop, so I decided to lie down on the couch. I must have gone into a very deep sleep because I didn't wake up until 5 p.m. My wife told me the bug man had stopped by while I was sleeping. This made me feel odd. I asked her how long he took to do it and why she didn't wake me up. My wife looked happy but shy, like she didn't want to talk about this. She said he was only in for a few minutes, they didn't say much, and she didn't want to wake me up because I was sleeping so well. Knowing my wife, that response was vague. Usually, she was very specific and good with words. I just know if she didn't have anything to hide. She would have specified precisely how long he was in the house and what they said to each other. If anything, I didn't know what I could do besides believe her. I checked out our bedroom, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. I realized at this point I was probably extra worried about this because my wife cheated on me in the past when we were dating. She says she thought we were on a break, but we weren't really. I took out the trash and breathed in the fresh air for a minute to calm down when I saw a folded note beside our apartment door. It read, "To whoever is snoring on the couch in this apartment right now. I know my bug spraying coworker went into your apartment and spent hours with your wife. You'll have to get her to admit what she did with him. Signed, a concerned fellow." I could not believe it. I took the note to my wife in a daze without saying a word. I wanted her to tell me what it meant. She was really caught off guard. I think she was in happy la la land, believing she got away with cheating on me again as I napped in her living room. I think she took pride in thinking she was so clever. When I showed her the note, it was like she was slapped across the face. She said she didn't think it was that long. I waited for her to say more, but nothing came. I asked her if she slept with the man, and she turned bright red. I started losing it, and she couldn't calm me down because she knew she was caught and I wouldn't believe any lie. She was right. I told her to get out. I didn't even wait for her to pack. I just started shoveling things into the hallway of the complex. At least she knew it was safe from bugs. She started panicking for no reason other than her future was uncertain. She didn't care that she broke my heart. She just needed to figure out who she could suck her into, giving her a new place to live. While she made her phone calls, I kept shoveling until I was sure the apartment didn't have anything that belonged to her. I pushed her out to stand in the hallway with her phone charger still swinging from her phone. I heard commotion when 2 of her relatives arrived. At first, I could tell they were mad at me banging on the door. But since I wouldn't answer, they turned their attention to her, and she told them what happened. They said she was lucky they loved her because what she just did was a terrible, terrible thing to do to someone. They made her wait for them to write me apology notes and slide money under the door despite her objections, even though she should have been the one doing it. I don't know how long she stayed with them or where she ended up after this, but I know she had to face the reality that day she thought she was going to get away with cheating. After she left, I didn't want to rush into a new relationship, so I bought a puppy. He is my love and support until I try to tame a new woman. Today's second story. In this story, Opie's wife, who worked at a stable, began staying late and acting distant. Suspecting infidelity, he discovered she lied about helping a friend, leading to conflicts and the loss of her job. When confronted, she attacked Opie, leading to her arrest. Further investigation revealed she was involved with someone at the stable. Opie filed for divorce, and the wife faced legal consequences, emphasizing the consequences of living a double life and cheating. Now let's get into the story. My wife, 30, worked at a stable a few minutes away from where we lived. She would always come home dirty and smelly and immediately get in the shower. I, 38, knew that after her shower, she'd usually come on to me. I loved the routine we had. I worked from home but occasionally had to go into the office. My wife started staying late at the stable, claiming that the pregnant horse needed a little extra care before she came home. I didn't mind, but she started staying 2 hours late every night. It was a lot. We only had about 5 hours together each evening. Minus those 2 hours, I was missing my wife. On top of that, when she came home and showered, she acted distant and indifferent toward me. I thought maybe she was tired, but her feelings toward me shouldn't have changed. I tried to ask her about it, but she said what I thought she'd say, that she was tired. When it got to the point we hadn't had intimate in a month, I knew something was wrong. Then she came home already showered. I asked her about it, and she said she helped her friend move some stuff in her house, so she let her shower. That was out of character because she always told me where she was going. I checked our family GPS app on my phone and hers was turned off now, so she didn't want me to see where she showered. Tonight, I decided I'm a different tactic. I started coming on to her, saying it had been a long time since we touched and I missed her. She literally pushed me away and said she wasn't in the mood. I asked her how that was possible if we usually did it 3 times a week but hadn't done it in a month. At that point, she didn't know what to say. She tried to say that she felt smothered, but I knew that was nonsense. She just didn't like that I was picking up on these clues and wouldn't let her get away with betraying me. I asked her why her family locator was off, and she was silent. After a few awkward moments, she said, "See, this is what I mean by smothering." I asked her why she'd been so distant, and what I could do to help our relationship, because apparently something had changed. She tried to say nothing had changed, and she really did just move furniture for her friend. I asked who the friend was, and she said it was Patty, the owner of the stable. That was great, because I knew I could ask her to call Patty right now and ask if she was helping her tonight and showered there. My wife was extremely upset with me for asking that. She said it was late now, and Patty usually went to bed early, so she didn't want to call her. I said if she wanted to keep our relationship, she needed to do this for me so I could maintain my trust in her. She did not like the ultimate, but she decided to call her and try and ask Patty in such a way that it sounded like she needed her to say yes and cover for her. Patty did not cover for her. She said she was not at her house and had no idea what she was talking about. A lot of screaming ensued, and my wife hung up on Patty. We argued about who was supposed to leave the house because both of our names were on it. I ended up sleeping on the couch that night, but the next morning, I was overjoyed to find that Patty had fired my wife from the stable under the assumption that she was cheating on me. My wife was so mad at me, saying it was my fault she lost her dream job. I asked how that was possible if she was the one that chose to lie to me, and I simply called her out on it. I asked her again where she showered the night prior, and she didn't say anything because she already lied once and it didn't work. Just then, Patty called me. I was my wife's emergency contact at the stable. I answered it by saying, "Hey, Patty," and my wife freaked out. She came at me trying to grab my phone from me. I yelled for her to get off me, and Patty said she was going to call 911. I was surprised she jumped to that so quickly, but at this point, I thought she probably knew more than I did. My wife didn't know she said that, and she kept trying to take my phone. I refused, so she started hitting me repeatedly to try to get it out of my hand. I couldn't believe this was happening. I think at this moment she forgot or didn't care that we had a camera in our living room. The cops arrived after she stopped hitting me, and she was shocked they showed up. She asked if I called them, and I told her Patty did. She was completely dismayed. I told the cops what she did and said I had it on camera. When I showed them, they arrested her. Just then, Patty called me back. I told her what happened, and then she told me what I was trying to figure out all along. Patty had hired a new stable hand who was 2,010 years younger than my wife. I guess age is but a number. They started flirting and hanging out late at the stable, but Patty knew my wife was married. My wife tried to ask her to cover for her, and she refused, telling her to keep her out of it. My wife made the wrong decision to say she went to Patty's house, but it was the only person I wouldn't be suspicious of. Then she made the terrible decision to try to call Patty for backup when she already told her to leave her out of it. The reason Patty decided to call the police was because she knew my wife was hitting me and that my wife threatened me. This was so surprising to hear. My wife never threatened anyone before that I knew of. She'd always been so kind and sweet. I guess when her double life was about to be exposed, she lost it. I filed for divorce, and she had to pay me a court settlement for the attack I had on video. Patty told me that she noticed my wife going to AP's house, but for obvious reasons, she didn't want to get involved. Eventually, she told me that AP lived with his parents, and he was sneaking my 30-year-old wife into the basement. What situation? After this dramatic situation, AP didn't want to see my wife again. She started acting crazy, like I was the one who ruined her life. I told her I didn't force her to make poor decisions. Take this as a lesson to all. Don't live a double life and then get mad at everyone else when your lies are. Don't cheat on your significant other because it's only asking for bad karma.